once they are into HighLevel and they see the options and they really personally understand what's happening, or their staff understands it, they really don't want to go away.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the HighLevel Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I am joined by Valerie VanBooven, the founder and co-owner of Approved Senior Network.
Yeah, that is right. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, Valerie.
No problem. I love watching these, so I'm really excited to be on one because it's really cool to see what everybody else has to say. So thanks for having me.
Well, you've been a familiar face in the community for a long time, so I'm thrilled to get you on the show. I know that you've been doing incredible things, and you've been doing them for a long time. How old is your agency?
We are going on 13 years old in the internet marketing space. So we are some old gray mares, but we love new stuff like HighLevel.
So take me back 13 years ago. How did this whole thing start for you?
So I'm a nurse by trade. I'm a registered nurse. I still keep my license current, but back in those days, I was very much interested in I did a lot of marketing for other companies, other financial advisors and home care agencies. I had just kind of learned how to do that over time. And so I really wanted to be my own boss. And I had to wait a year or two. We had triplets. So we have triplet daughters.
Wow.
They're now 13 years old.
Holy smokes.
So I don't remember much about the first year, but when they were when they were 1 year old, I went off on my own. I still had a part-time job with a remote job with a bank in Baltimore doing their marketing. I traveled a lot, but I started my own business and slowly ramped it up. And by 2010, we were able to pay myself and bring on a business partner who was more of the financial guy. I'm more of the marketer and woohoo, shiny objects. And he's more of the now reel it back in, and how are we going to roll this out, and how are we going to plan this, and how are we going to pay for it. And so it's been a really good match. George has been my business partner for all these years. We do not live close to each other. We have worked from our respective homes. He's in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. And it has been a great partnership for all these years. Our families, we enjoy everything about, his family, my family, and it's just been great. So we now have 15.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there are 15 of us now, employees.
So let me ask you, sorry to cut you off, but let's stay close to the beginning. Were those first couple of years hard? Did you struggle? Did you struggle with sales? Like, was it easy to get your first clients because you came from the industry? Talk to me about that first, getting to 10,000 a month.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the first couple of years, I can remember at that time sitting on the floor stuffing envelopes with my husband and our nanny, who now works for me. She helped us with the kids, and then we sat on the floor and stuffed envelopes full of paper newsletters, because at the time that's how you sent a newsletter. You didn't really send it online; you sent it by snail mail. So I can remember doing that. I can remember really only keeping a real job on the side because we needed the health insurance. There's all kinds of things that we didn't really struggle financially ever. We were careful, but we definitely didn't make money in the business until we started adding more services. Once we started adding websites and adding more, and people started realizing the importance of their online marketing in a really tough niche. I didn't even tell you the niche we're in is all elder care, home care, senior care, assisted living, elder law, anything to do with seniors and their families. So it's a really strange niche, I guess, and it's not as competitive as like doing an internet marketing thing for roofers or plumbers or restaurants. but it definitely has its challenges.
For
And
sure.
so we just kept plugging away at it. So I would say I can remember when I made $100 a day, when I first hit that $100 a day mark,
Hmm.
thinking, whoo, we can see, I could see that. And then it was $1,000 a day, and then it was 2,000 a day. And then you kind of stop keeping track of it. After a while, you just know the monthlies. But I remember those times, and it really is about being true to it, to the product and the service that you provide, and trying to stay away from every super shiny object that exists. There are
Mm,
so many avenues and roads you can take.
right.
Being true and being really good at one thing, and then branching off a little bit and adding another piece, is that's how we did it.
Well, so
So
you mentioned that you didn't start with websites, but then you decided you were going to start offering them. How was that transition? Did you know anything about building websites yourself? Did you outsource them in the beginning? Did you bring in somebody? How did you figure that out?
well, I've always been self-taught, so WordPress has always been my gig, and we have been self-taught from the beginning. But I did bring on someone who knew a lot more about building websites than I did, also very much self-taught. And we started building websites for home care agencies, and they loved them, and it was great. And at the time, so we've had with us, 3 or 4 different web developers over time, and not because for whatever reason they just went on and did other things or whatever. I mean, but it really was a self-taught adventure at first. I didn't have the money to hire somebody and pay them big bucks. They kind of had to
Hmm.
come along for the ride, and probably did it, late at night when they weren't, after dinner when the kids were in bed, just like I did. So we actually, when we started, we were doing blog posting with unique content. We were doing, at that time, of course, you could do a YouTube video, short YouTube video, and be #1 on the first page of Google, just like
Right.
that. And so that was a big
Those
selling.
were the days.
I know. No, it's like you forget it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we've been through every iteration and every Google algorithm and every change and every, the internet. The I guess the good and the bad is it always changes. It's always getting smarter. There's never going to be a time when it's going to slow down.
Mhm.
So it took me a long time to learn that being the most genuine you can be on your website, on in like in the videos that I do to market our services. I interview people. I talk to them about what they do for a living, much like what you do, and just being that genuine human person and talking about your challenges and your wins and all that is what
Hmm.
people really want. Um,
That's interesting. So you have a content program within your industry.
Yes, we have something called the Senior Care Industry Netcast. And it is usually industry leaders with 3 or more years of experience in senior care. And this is another way that we generate leads. So we
I
develop
was
them.
just going to say, is this part of your marketing? It must
Yeah, and
generate.
not everybody comes on board with us. Not everybody wants to be a client or needs to be. Sometimes I just interview people because they're fascinating in our industry, and
Hmm.
they don't really need our services. But sometimes people do come on board with us, or they get introduced to what we do. I don't sell when I get somebody on my netcast. I don't ask them if they know about us. They end up in HighLevel though, and they end up getting all of our marketing stuff. So when we do our newsletters now, or when we do our we're having a big webinar coming up this Thursday, we can easily put 300 people on a webinar just like that. And it's because HighLevel allows us to, send out those emails and schedule them in advance. Everything's done. I don't have to worry about it. So it is part of our marketing strategy, but I make it a point not to try and sell people on the
I
netcast.
think it's a great idea. Yeah. I think more people, more agency owners need to become content media companies within their niche. I think that's awesome. So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Over the course of the past 13 years, what do you think was one of the best decisions that you made thinking back that sort of leaped you ahead?
Well, I do believe that if you are going to have a business partner, if you're going down that road, some of us are going to be working by ourselves forever, and that's okay. But if you end up going down the road of partnering with other people, and it is a real partnership financially, it's not just a venture, it's a thing. Um, it is so easy for that to go wrong. And
Mm.
we've seen that over and over again. But to get it right, I think it's just like, it's kind of like a marriage, sometimes having those opposite traits. Like, my business partner is a financial guy. He's really good with that stuff.
Mm.
He's really good about thinking, what is the end goal here? Whereas I'm like, oh no, this is going to be fun. And so he's like, wait a minute, you're going to get tired of this in a minute. So we got to figure out if this is really something you want to do long term. And so we're great about bouncing ideas. We don't always agree, but for at least 10 of the last 13 years, we've been able to make sure that, we financially and as whatever our rules are, whatever our SOPs are, we're all in sync with that. And he kind of lets me go with stuff that I feel like I want to do, and I let him go with the things he needs to do to make sure we're managing our money correctly. And that just worked really well for us. So
Nice.
I think I've learned partnerships can be hard. I think also the fact that we don't see each other every day and then we're not in the same place kind of
Mm.
actually works to our advantage. I talk to him every day. I talk to George all the time, but we don't sit in the same office. We've never have. I've visited his family many times and he's visited us, but we don't see each other all the time.
So
So
partnering up, that can be a major turbulent thing. It sounds like you successfully managed that. What about something, thinking back over the years, that didn't go right? A big mistake that you would do differently?
hiring family members.
Okay.
Yeah, that's never good, right? So we've had I have hiring friends and family, especially right now. I would say, people are out of jobs. People are struggling. Not everybody, but you may be in a position where you're doing great, and you could use some help with something, and cousin Susie isn't doing so well, and she's lost her job. Maybe there's something she could do for you, and that might work great. But be very careful. I would say we've had a couple of family members of mine that have worked out beautifully over the years, mostly stay-at-home moms who don't want to work outside of the home. They have a degree, they have, had other jobs in their life, but right now they're in a mode where they want to stay at home with their kids and work when they can work. And we're very flexible like that. So everybody's virtual for us. Everybody's in the United States as far as their home base, but we are very flexible in I don't care what time you work as long as you're awake, as long as you're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
falling asleep. So that has worked really well, but we've had a couple of other things happen where it's just not, hiring family members just hasn't worked out really well. So I would say that's kind of a normal warning, but hiring friends and family doesn't always go really well. So it's hard to be a friend of somebody's good friend and then be their boss at the same time, even
Yeah,
though
yeah, absolutely. It can make it much harder to part ways if that's needed as well, right?
and I think
So,
who you trust and what you purchase is also
mm,
a big challenge. We've made some purchasing mistakes that have not hurt us tremendously, but that we've regretted over time, as far as software, as far as even who does our credit card processing, those kinds of
mm,
things. You find out later you probably could have done better. So it's kind of a learning process sometimes.
interesting. So let me ask you sort of an agency intimate type of question here. Do you have an idea of how long you retain your clients on average?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that on the long end, we've had people who have been with us probably 7 years or more.
Wow,
On the
that's awesome.
short end, yeah, on the short end, we've had people rotated in and out in 6 or 7 months. Typically, if they rotate in and out 6 or 7 months, they just don't have the financial stamina to wait it out. And it's not that I want them to wait 6 or 7 months for anything, but sometimes even with Google Ads, even with SEO, especially with blog posting, with creating websites and getting them to the first page, it takes a while. So if they're relying on organic, and we're really good at what we do, but if they're relying on organic methods to generate leads, it's a long wait. So if we've learned over time that startups really aren't our gig. And if you have the finances and you plan ahead, that's fine. But if you're struggling already, then I don't want you to have to decide between paying yourself this week and paying my marketing agency this week, because I'm going to lose anyway. You got to feed your kids, right? And I don't want you to have to feel like you have to make that decision and be disappointed. So we're pretty careful about who we have come on board. We're pretty good about vetting them in a nice way and saying, this may not be right for you right now, but when it is, please come back to us, because we love to help you. But we may be out of your price range for you to sustain this for any period of time. So our contracts are usually 6 months at a minimum, and then you're month to month. People normally, if they're into what we're doing, especially if we have their website, especially if they're in HighLevel and they are loving this. Now, we've been with HighLevel a year, but I can tell you that is the glue that keeps people around at this moment. I mean, there's other glues, but once they are into HighLevel and they see the options and they really personally understand what's happening, or their staff understands it, they really don't want to go away. So they stay around. One of the reasons they stay is because they love the automation, they love the recruiting programs, they love the lead programs, and that really helps. So anything you can do to get them glued to you is well worth it.
That's awesome. And that's really, that's going to be such a good clip for us to use as we head into SaaS mode, and we really try to help agencies start thinking in those terms of like, hey, you need to leverage this white label platform as your own, because it becomes glue, like you said, or at least additional glue that can keep a client around longer. And even 6 or 7 months on the short end for you is longer than the industry average, which is fantastic. And so it sounded like I heard you say, if we can do their website and we're also doing a couple of other things for them, they're going to stick around longer than if you're just trying to do lead generation.
Yes, we actually try to sell our organic process first, and then lead generation after that. So we are all about the blog posting, the SEO of your website. Whether we built it or not, we're happy to do it. We're all about changing, if you'll allow us to change out your forms. If we built the website, all the forms are now HighLevel forms. It just
nice
glue. But if we didn't build your website, but you're willing to let us put HighLevel forms on there that look exactly the same as the forms you have, they just work a little differently, then we'll do it. We're really flexible with how we work with people. We don't want to build a website for somebody who doesn't need it. We're happy to work with what they already have, as long as it's within something that we can work with. And there are platforms we can. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you one last question. And this is something that I'd love to hear all the different answers. And I think it's something that a lot of agencies just don't even take the time to think about. You're an established agency now. You're a veteran in the industry, I would say. What does the future look like? Are you guys trying to scale to, millions, or are you comfortable where you're at and you don't want to have to grow the team any bigger? What are your thoughts about the future?
Yeah, we're a 7-figure agency. We have been for several years. We're not like high 7 figures or anything crazy. There's only 15 of us. So I would love to scale a little bit more. I would love to add on 5 or 6 more employees. But if you ask me, will we ever have 100 employees or 50 employees? I kind of like the boutique feel of where we are. We'll probably hire more folks, and we love doing that. I love being able to provide jobs to families. But I don't think that we will ever be a 100 employee organization. And it's only and I've read the pros and cons of all of that. I think that what the future holds for us, in fact, today we're starting to build our SaaS website for our HighLevel white label stuff. So we've
Nice.
already white labeled it, right? But we needed a name for it. So we came up with a name the other day, and then we're having everything built right now. We're building our website that specifically talks about the CRM, and that is because you all are moving forward. We're moving forward with you. And to me, that piece of it is going to be super important. And so the future is making sure that we offer our clients something that they feel like is a value to them, that they don't want to be without. And we have the expertise to keep their websites and their content and their newsletters and all the automation they want at a reasonable price, but take them to the next level and offload some of that crazy stuff that they're having to do. Our folks are usually very much about networking, our niche networks in person all the time. And that has been eliminated this year. You just can't network in person at all, basically. So the importance of their online presence has never been stronger. And we are taking advantage of that and helping as many as we can, as fast as we can. So our business hasn't taken a hit. It has only grown. And I attribute a lot of that to our team, but I also attribute that to sticking with HighLevel as you guys have grown and added on services. And we've created products and services that complement what we already offer, and worked with a lot of those cool guys that are on that Facebook group. I think all the big names, we've worked with them in one way or another. And truly that has helped tremendously. Being
That's awesome.
Masterminding or just asking questions or being part of these other people's programs who really are trying to improve the product, or they're trying to give you more options. It's really worth paying for, and it's worth being involved in. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And do you ever do any consulting or coaching?
The only I don't particularly do consulting or coaching, except for to our clients usually, because we are in such a specific niche. And when you bring a client on and you're charging a lot of money, typically they do look to you for advice and for a direction with their marketing, or is this really right? Are you guys, is this what I should be doing? Help me understand more. So we do a lot of consulting and coaching just from that perspective. I don't typically coach other business owners, but I love talking to them anytime. Happy to answer questions, happy to share our experience with whatever HighLevel or just in business in general. But typically our clients are the ones that need, especially right now, need a sounding board.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Well, if somebody watches this and they'd love to reach out with a question or to just compliment you on such a job well done, where can people find you?
They can find us on our website. It's asnmarketing.com, or they can find me in the Facebook group with HighLevel, or they can reach out to me at my email, which is valerie@ltcep.com. But usually I'm around in that Facebook group, or that you can just Google my name and you'll find me. I'm the only Valerie VanBooven on the planet, I think. So
Awesome. Well, Valerie, thanks so much for coming on. This was great.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.